March 12, 2025, Washington, D.C. In a twist that has sent shockwaves through capitals, boardrooms, and factory floors alike, President Donald Trump has dramatically axed a planned tariff escalation on Canadian goods, stepping back from the edge of a trade war with America's northern neighbor just hours before the measures were set to kick in at midnight. The announcement came this afternoon in a chaotic White House press briefing, capping a day of high-stakes talks with Canadian officials scrapping a plan to double tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. For a leader who has used tariffs as both a sword and a shield in his second term, this pivot is a bombshell one that raises as many questions as it answers. Trump strode into the Rose Garden to declare victory. "We've locked in a fantastic, unbelievable deal with Canada," he said. "They know they can't push around the most powerful economy the world has ever seen, and nobody negotiates like me," he added with a jab at the sky. Details were slim, but insiders say Ontario's last-minute decision to suspend a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. was the key. That surcharge started in February amid an energy feud and had angered border states like Michigan and New York, sparking Trump's tariff threat just 48 hours ago, a threat that had markets, manufacturers, and everyday folks on edge. The day was like a financial thriller. The Dow dropped 600 points by midday as investors braced for supply chain chaos, only to climb back 450 points after Trump's words hit the news. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke from a snowy Ottawa, calling it a pragmatic win for both nations, though he warned we must stay vigilant. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, a big player in the drama, posted on X, confirming a Thursday meeting with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to modernize the USMCA for a new era. "Were neighbors not punching bags time to prove it?" Ford wrote, echoing a sigh of relief from Canadians who'd feared the worst. But the story's not done. White House spokesperson Kush Desai dropped a surprise, a separate 25% tariff on steel and aluminum from all countries, including Canada, still rolls out at midnight, tied to Trump's America First plan. This half-step has experts scrambling. It's vintage Trump, said trade scholar Linda Grayson from Georgetown University. He blusters big, then pivots to claim the high ground, keeping Canada on its toes, while he lines up the next shot, she explained. Critics see a misstep. He overreached and got caught flat-footed, said Nobel winner Paul Krugman. "This isn't strategy, it's improvisation," he added. The U.S. Canada trade bond, a $2.7 billion daily giant, has been Trump's sandbox since 2016. His first term saw him tear up NAFTA, forging the USMCA in 2020 after months of tough talks that strained ties with Ottawa and Mexico City. Since storming back into office in 2025, he swung tariffs like a wrecking ball: 10% on Chinese electronics in January, 15% on Mexican produce in February, and now this Canadian saga. His offhand remark last week that Canada should join the U.S. as the 51st state got laughs at Mar-a-Lago, but fury north of the border, where Foreign Minister Melanie Joly called it a non-starter that insults our sovereignty. Today's talks suggest Canada chose compromise over conflict, but at what cost? The clash flared up in late February when Ontario hit U.S. consumers with its electricity surcharge, a jab back at Trump's earlier curbs on Canadian oil imports. Midwest governors blew up Michigan's. Gretchen Whitmer called it a dagger to families already stretched thin, while New York's Kathy Hochul demanded swift action. Trump jumped in, vowing Monday to bury Canada's steel sector with tariffs he said would flood Pennsylvania and Ohio with jobs. It was a repeat of 2018 when he hit Canada with steel duties, sparking a counterstrike that jacked up prices for ketchup and beer before a truce came. This time, Canada prepped $3 billion in reprisals. Think oil, bourbon, and Harleys until today's calm. The reversal steadied Wall Street. Toronto's TSX shot up 2.8%, and Bay Street traders cheered a dodged bullet. A full tariff fight would have meant $15 Tim Hortons runs and $60,000 F-150s, said Tom Rourke of RBC Capital. In the U.S., the Chamber of Commerce praised it, with CEO Suzanne Clark saying open markets are the backbone of growth. Let's build on this. But the midnight tariffs loom large. Steel expert Mark Jensen predicts a 5 to 10% price jump for cars, appliances, and building materials by midsummer, a tough hit for folks still reeling from last year's inflation surge. X blew up with reactions. Trump blinked Canada's tougher than he thought, posted Maple Leaf Pride, while MAGA 4 ever shot back he's just reloading, Trudeau's done next time. Unions split the United Steelworkers called the pause a lifeline for mills, but AFL-CIO chief Liz Schuler warned of a slow bleed if global tariffs stick. In Detroit, auto worker Maria Lopez shrugged. "Tariffs or no tariffs, my rent's still due," she told Breaking Now, wiping grease from her hands. In Buffalo, New York, where Canadian hydropower keeps lights on retiree, Jim Carter felt relief. "My electric bill's brutal already. I don't need Trump's games adding more," he said outside a snowy diner. Across the border in Windsor, Ontario, steelworker Tara Singh wasn't so sure. "Trudeau talks big but caves every time wells see layoffs soon," she said, pointing to beams headed for Cleveland. In Pittsburgh, welder Mike Donovan saw a plus. "If Canada's out, we're in more shifts for me," he said, lighting a torch. Breaking Now caught Representative Dan Crenshaw from Texas on Capitol Hill. "The president's a closer he squeezed Canada dry and won this is hardball," he said, brushing off naysayers. Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts fumed. "His trade policies a three-ring circus threats today, backpedaling tomorrow, it's reckless and sloppy," she said. Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre chimed in on ex-Trudeau's "spineless Trump's got us in a chokehold," and he's grinning. The world watched close. The EU, facing Trump's threats on German cars, saw hope. "If Canada can dodge, maybe we can talk," said an aide to EU trade boss Valdis Dombrovskis, though Brussels preps $10 billion in counter-tariffs just in case. Japan, nervous about U.S. steel duties, signaled talk readiness with Trade Minister Ken Sato, calling it a chance to reset. In Beijing, state-run Global Times mocked Trump's hot air deflates again, while quietly drafting $20 billion in reprisals if U.S.-China tensions flare. India, a steel exporter, grew anxious. "If America shuts us out, we're stuck with extra stock prices will crash," said Mumbai analyst Priya Patel. Mexico, still sore from Trump's avocado tax, stayed quiet. But an aide to President Claudia Sheinbaum hinted at teaming with Canada for pushback if tariffs spread. Even Australia chimed in with PM Anthony Albanese, urging cool heads to protect global trade. Beyond headlines, the stakes hit real people. In Sarnia, Ontario, barista Jenna Miles worried about ripples. "If steel slows shipping, slows my tips vanish," she said, pouring coffee. In Ohio, farmer Dale Erickson feared Canada's bourbon tariff threat. "They hit my whiskey sales. I'm done," he told Breaking Now, eyeing a corn silo. In DC, think tank fellow Sarah Nguyen broke it down. "This isn't just economics, it's identity. Trump's base loves the tough talk, even if it's a bluff," she said. Trump's tariff dance mirrors a presidency built on shaking things up. His base, blue-collar workers, rural folks, and Rust Belt diehards cheers the chest-thumping, seeing it as a stand against global elites. Critics from coastal liberals to Bay Street suits slam a lack of vision. "He's playing whack-a-mole while China builds the future," said economist Nouriel Roubini. Backers say chaos is the goal. "Has rewriting rules America wins when others scramble," said GOP strategist Mark Hensley. The Canada mess fits a trend. In 2022, Trump threatened 20% EU tariffs only to settle for small wins. Last year, he hit Brazilian ethanol with duties, then eased them after farmers yelled. Each time he spins retreat as victory, a playbook keeping friends and foes off balance. "He's a poker player with a weak hand, but a killer bluff," said Grayson. "How long can he bluff before someone calls it?" she asked. The midnight tariffs, even without the Canada hike, spread wide. The American Trucking Association warns of $2 billion in added costs as steel prices rise. Homebuilders see a 3% jump in building costs, stalling projects from Dallas to Duluth. Retailers like Walmart, already hit by supply woes, brace for tighter margins. A $5 toaster turns to $6, guess who pays? Asked analyst Jensen. Canada's not unscathed. Ontario's steel belt from Hamilton to Sault Ste. Marie faces doubt. "We dodged 50%, but 25% still hurts. Mills will cut shifts," said union rep Dave Leclerc. Alberta's oil patch eyed for reprisals holds tight. "If Trump keeps jabbing well, choke their pipelines," vowed Calgary MP Tom Kamiuk. The loonie Canada's dollar rose 1% today, but stays shaky. Trump's team hints at a big follow-up. Aides float a trade summit maybe with Elon Musk, whose Tesla spans Detroit and Ontario as a stage for big league deals. The president teased huge news soon sparking talk of a USMCA redo or a two-nation pact. Musk fresh from a Cybertruck photo op with Trump posted on X borders, our lines on a map trade should erase them. Experts guess he's pushing a cross-border EV corridor. For now, the $900 billion U.S. Canada trade flow keeps beating, but midnight tariffs loom like storm clouds. Will Trump double down, or has Canada cracked his code? As night falls over, see one thing stands out: the dealmaker-in-chief thrives on keeping the world guessing. Stay with Breaking Now as this unfolds. Reporting by the Breaking Now team.